Welcome to Journey In, a show that aims to offer you new and expanding perspectives when it comes to defining your spirituality. These days, more and more of us are craving a deeper connection to something bigger than ourselves. I created this show to not only share about my personal journey, but to create a space to have conscious conversation around different spiritual modalities, health and wellness trends, and to hear from spiritual thought leaders so that we can come together and respect one another despite our spiritual beliefs and differences. At the end of the day, a spiritual journey is a homecoming to who you really are, and you get to define what that path looks like. It can be messy, hard, and confusing. We're going to journey through it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jess, and let's journey in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back. Season 2, Journey In. We're here. And it's been a minute. And I know you guys are probably like, what the fuck? She's just coming out with a season 2. What's happening? Okay. So it's been like a year since I've been here. However, even though I took a break from Journey In, I did not take a break from podcasting. So what I've been up to, I was actually co-hosting a podcast with a dear friend of mine, and we decided to part ways on that project, and now I'm back. So that's really the gist of it. So I didn't stop podcasting. I love podcasting, and I am just so excited to be here with you guys and pick up where we left off. So we're launching this season with a modality that has become a central point of focus for me. And if you guys did listen to my other podcasts, then you probably know what I'm talking about. Or if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know. But it is 13 sign astrology. So that's what we're really going to start with here. And I'm actually going to walk you guys through the zodiac seasons according to this system in real time, because the timeline of this system is different than mainstream astrology. And I'll explain why in a bit. But yeah, so that's going to be a big focus of it. It's been my obsession lately, and it's been such a journey and such an exploration for me. And I want to take you guys along for the ride with me because I've been learning so much and it's just been so much fun. So that's going to be a big focus, but I'm still also going to bring on guests, and we're going to dive into other topics within the spiritual space as well. So more to come. And before we really dive into everything, I also have an email list, which is, I'll put the link to join in the show notes, but I really want to touch on it because this is where I go really, really deep into each zodiac season, according to 13 sign astrology. I also offer you individualized guidance based on your chart, and I do monthly giveaways. So I highly recommend joining if this is something, especially after listening to this episode today, if you're like, okay, I need to learn more about this system, I'm curious, join my email list because I give so much information about it, and it's been really fun for me. It's kind of like a diary for me as well. Like, I just write about all my experiences and what's going on in my life as well, and it always correlates to astrology. So definitely hop on that. Again, link will be in the show notes if you're curious. But today, first episode back, I really wanted to dive super deep into what 13 sign astrology is, really lay the foundation for you guys and the origins of astrology, because this is something that when I found 13 sign astrology, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how? I don't get how this isn't more widely known. Why was the 13th sign omitted from mainstream astrology? Like, what the fuck is going on? And this has been such a journey. So I've done a ton of research on it. I would encourage you guys to do your own research on it if you feel like you need to, especially after listening to this episode today. But it's a lot. So we're going to dive into like origins of astrology real quick, and you may want to, if you're listening like in the car or something, you may want to go back and watch the video version of this later on, because I'm really going to break things down in this episode for y'all and show you how to pull your 13 sign astrology chart, explain the foundations of what it means when you're looking at it, and yeah, it'll just make more sense if you're watching the video. But you can always go back to the video. It will be on Spotify or YouTube at a later date, even if you aren't able to watch it right now. Okay? So let's get into it. So these days we have sidereal astrology, and there's multiple forms of sidereal astrology, and 13 sign astrology is one of them. And it's 13 sign astrology is also called true sky astrology. So you may hear me saying them interchangeably, but I usually say 13 sign. And then there's tropical, Western, mainstream astrology. All of those mean the same thing. Tropical astrology, Western astrology, mainstream astrology. They're the same thing, because I always go back and forth in between the terminology. So I just wanted to break that down. But the key difference is that sidereal astrology aligns with the actual positions of the constellations in the sky, whereas tropical astrology or mainstream astrology aligns with the seasons. I'm going to break this down. So, going back to the origins of astrology first, though, the zodiac seasons were originally created by the Babylonians over 2,000 years ago. And this was when the ecliptic, which is the pathway of the sun through the stars, was divided into 12 equal parts. There is a lot of conjecture around this and why Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign, was omitted from the zodiac originally. There's not a lot, but there are some astrologers in the 13 sign space who do take the um, viewpoint that it was to suppress the feminine. I think everyone has a right to their own viewpoint, and you guys listening, I would encourage you, if you're just starting out on this journey, take in all information and see what feels true for you. Because if there's one thing that I have truly learned since discovering the system, it's that the truth is subjective. Okay. And so I don't take that stance that the mainstream astrology was meant to suppress the feminine. I personally don't take that stance on it. It just doesn't feel like the reason why I resonated with it, and it doesn't feel like the reason why I'm sharing it with you today. Okay, I believe that honestly, the 13th sign was omitted for the sake of simplicity. You can divide the number 12 super evenly, and it aligned back then with their agricultural seasons, because way back then they used the stars for agriculture. And so this is why you'll commonly hear people talk about tropical astrology or Western astrology as being aligned with the seasons. Okay. And this might be a little confusing at first if you're not super familiar with astrology, but I'm just going to break it down. I don't know why I've just been feeling like I wanted this episode to be super detailed into this, because even for me, for a while, I was like, I still don't understand like why we have these different systems. So that's what we're getting into right now. So tropical astrology is aligned with the seasons. What that means is that Aries season begins at the vernal equinox. This is usually, and these are always at the same time every single year. The vernal equinox is around March 20th to 21st of every single year. That's when tropical Aries season starts. Then Cancer season starts at the summer solstice, which is around June 20th to 21st. And then Libra at the autumnal equinox, which is around September 22nd to 23rd. And Capricorn at the winter solstice, which is December 21st to the 22nd-ish. So these are really fixed every single year with tropical astrology. It never changes. We shift into a new zodiac season in tropical astrology on around the 20th or 21st of every month. Okay. All of the zodiac seasons are divided into 30 even-ish days, along with the sky is how they divided it back then. This is not the same for 13 sign astrology, and this is why the timing is very different, and again, as I walk you through on the podcast or my email list, as I walk you through the timing of when we shift zodiac seasons, the reason for the difference again is based on where the planets are in the sky in real time. So, where they actually are in each constellation. Because remember, tropical mainstream astrology doesn't align with the constellations. Okay, it aligns with the seasons. The seasons are fixed. The constellations are also fixed, but in a different way. So, the reason why there's a discrepancy between the two is because of something called precession. So back then, when astrology was originally created, it did align to the position of the stars, right? Because remember, they were using it for agricultural reasons. They needed to align with the position of the stars. But, you know, later on, it was adopted by the Greeks. And at that point, Greek astronomer Ptolemy, he was the one that formed the foundation of tropical astrology. And they actually noticed there was a discrepancy of when the zodiac seasons were starting and where the actual constellations were in the sky. And this is because of the something called precession of the equinoxes. And basically what this means is that the equinoxes shift around 1 degree every year. Or it's not 1 degree every year, around 1 degree every 72 years. So there's a slight shift in them. So therefore, it has shifted the relation of the equinoxes to the constellations. Okay. And so this is why the constellations are staying where they are, the equinoxes are shifting. And this is when this was acknowledged by the Greeks back then. And they chose to keep tropical astrology in alignment with the seasons instead of the constellations for many reasons, because it was easier to track, more consistency. And also it was something that was already becoming, you know, widely known and accepted. And to just throw a 13th constellation in there now, or to shift when things would be starting, it would create this inconsistency. It would disrupt what was starting to become tried and true, right? And so that's really when it was at that point when tropical astrology was really formed and aligned again with the position and the shifting of the equinoxes and the seasons. I hope that makes sense. So there's about a 24-degree difference in where Aries season starts in sidereal, 13 sign astrology, versus where it starts in tropical astrology. And that is because of what I just explained, the precession of the equinoxes. So this is why your sun sign will change from the systems. This is why your natal chart, which is your birth chart, can look so drastically different, is because of precession and because of this and how each system aligns differently, with 13 sign astrology aligning to the stars, the constellations, and tropical astrology aligning to the seasons. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a lot to take in and digest, or at least it was for me. I don't think very scientifically. So, anyways, um, so this is why, for example, a lot of people in tropical astrology, mainstream astrology, who are an Aries sun are a Pisces sun in 13 sign astrology. And so this is where I would really encourage you to look up your chart. My sun sign changed according to the system. That doesn't happen for everybody. But I have never seen like the moon sign and rising sign stay the same, just because the moon shifts into a new sign every 2 days. So it makes sense. But anyways, so why did they do this? And again, I believe based on research, it was for simplicity, because again, the system had been widely adopted. So changing it would really uproot the foundation, cause a disruption. And that's exactly what 13 sign astrology has done. It's been a disruption for people in the astrological space because it's nonlinear. But to me, like, nature is nonlinear. And to me, astrology is an aspect of nature. I mean, like, we're connecting to the sky, right? To where the earth is in relation to the constellations. And so um, this is why, it's always said that this form of astrology is a perspective. And it took me so long to understand that. Like, I was like, I don't get how it's a perspective. Like, we're aligning with where the constellations actually are in the sky, or where the planets are in relation to the constellations in the sky. And I get it now. I get it. It's because this is something that has been, I mean, tropical astrology has made it through thousands of years, and it's still like the same, and it's still so widely known, which is pretty crazy, honestly, when you think about it. And it's really cool too when you think about it. But it really depends on how you view life. It depends on what you believe in. And if you believe in like consistency and, that's something that's been tried and true for years and years and years, like I understand why people don't want to shift away from tropical astrology, is what I'm saying. For me, and again, I think that a lot of it comes down to how you view life, but also just what you feel. And for me, when I found 13 sign astrology, I felt it very viscerally in my body. Like it felt like such a disruption for me. It wasn't something like, "Oh, okay, cool." It wasn't a very light moment. It was a very visceral, like something hit me and kind of knocked the wind out of me. At the time, I was actually studying Western astrology, tropical astrology. I was doing a certification, a really in-depth certification for it. And I didn't know about 13 sign astrology at all. And I actually came across it through someone who I know who's been practicing astrology for years. And she shared something to her stories on Instagram. And I was like, what? What is this? And then I went to the page of the other girl who was a 13 sign astrologer. And I just truly was shook. I was shook. This is where your intuition is going to come into play. This is where, if you feel a curiosity around anything that I'm sharing, go into it. And if you're someone that's been really into astrology for years and you're like, fuck that, no, I don't want to believe in that, um, that's okay. But also notice where your ego is attached or your identity is attached to astrology, because that is another thing that this system does, is it just disrupts and detaches you from your chart, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. Okay. And I'm not saying that to be like rude or anything, but it was a call out for me. Like my ego was very attached to Western astrology, and it just was so disrupting. And it's just a constant reminder that like we can be really into these tools and these modalities, but they don't define us. And they're meant to help us along our path. And especially if we're more spiritually inclined, like I believe a lot of people who are more spiritually inclined have just a natural inclination towards these tools and curiosity. Like for me, my curiosity is like insatiable around this. And I think curiosity is a form of intuition. And so, yeah, it's just been something for me that I've been really checked on and been like, okay, but I need to remember that like this is just a tool, and it's not who I am. It's not my identity. And I think that that's something that's really easy for me, at least, to confuse the two. So I went on a little tangent there, but again, there's just a lot in this. And so the reason why I'm sharing it with you guys is because I really believe that it just connects us deeper to the earth, because it connects us to where the constellations really are in the sky and where the planets really are in the sky in relation to the earth. And so that's why I really want to share it. It feels so grounding to me, this system. It feels so grounding to me. And it has ever since I've been really learning it, learning my chart. It feels so true. It feels so grounding. And when I say that, it's like in tropical astrology, the seasons, they just shift. I remember always feeling like, oh my God, it's so fast. Like all of a sudden we're in a new season, even though each season is even divided evenly into like 30 days. But ever since I've been like noticing this and feeling into and aligning with this system, timing wise, it's been feeling like okay, it feels like slower in a sense. It just feels like we're like really grounding in to the present. And that's really what this system has been for me personally is it's been really grounding. And so that's why I want to share it with y'all. And I hope you guys feel something similar. I think that everybody is going to get out of it what they need to get out of it. And if you, yeah, if you're curious about it, like, again, remember, like, you can just listen and you can learn about all these things, and it doesn't have to be like your truth, but it can be a part of it, right? And it can just be something that you're exploring as well. So it all depends on how you look at it. And okay, that was a lot, but I hope you guys are still with me. So now I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to show you how to pull up your 13 sign astrology chart, because there's really only one website that has the software created for this system. Okay, so this is when you'll want to tune into the video, but you can still, if you're listening, just keep listening. So here. Okay, so this website is called masteringthezodiac.com, and I will put it in the show notes of this episode so that you guys can access it more easily. But you can also read more about sidereal astrology. Athen, he's the founder of Mastering the Zodiac. This is his website. So he offers a lot of great insights as well into what sidereal astrology is, the differences, all of that. But to pull your chart, you're going to want to go to charts and chart calculator. And then it'll pull this up, and you're just going to type in your name. I'm going to do my birthday, name, birthday, and then you're going to need the exact time of your birthday as well. This is for any astrology chart, no matter what system you're using. I was born, and for this website, you need to type it in military time. So I was born at 11:45 p.m. So that's 23:45. And then I was born in Plano, Texas, y'all. Anyways, okay. Calculating planetary positions. So you're going to see this circular chart come up, and this is called a natal chart. And I'm just going to briefly explain what the foundations are of it. I know it's going to look like a lot of hoobly-haw because this is basically a different language, but don't worry, you don't need to know everything. But I just want to break down some things for you guys, especially if you know astrology. So for me, my sun is in Scorpio in this system. I'm a Sagittarius sun in tropical, but I'm a Scorpio sun in 13 sign. And so you're going to see all of this is the sun sign here. You're going to see all of these little glyphs. And the thing that I want to point out that's really important is that with this system, or with this software, it's a little off in where the glyphs align in your chart. So for example, you always want to look to where like the little dashes are along the edge here, and the color that corresponds to the glyph. So for here, this is Jupiter. It corresponds to this little orange glyph. Okay. And then like Pluto and Mercury here, I have them directly conjunct on top of each other. So they're both right here. My sun sign, which is correlated to this yellow glyph. And then, so my moon sign here looks like it's in the fourth house of Ophiuchus. This is Ophiuchus, but it's actually in the fifth house of Sagittarius. So it's aligned with this blue glyph right here. I know it looks like it's aligned with this one, but it's not. It's aligned with this. So it can be a little off. So just really diligently look at that. And again, I offer readings and stuff. So if you guys need help with that, I can definitely help you. But I just want to point that out because when I first pulled my chart, I was like, oh my God, I'm an Ophiuchus moon. And then the girl that read my chart was like, no, you're a Sagittarius moon. And I was like, what? So I just really wanted to point that out for y'all. Because then if you can see here, I have 3 little glyphs. This is corresponding to my Uranus. This is corresponding to my Venus sign. And then this to my Neptune. So yeah, just wanted to explain that. And if that's just too confusing, which I don't know why I didn't mention this before, but it's a lot simpler. You can just go to placements and it will list out everything for you, which planet is in which sign and in which house. So especially if you're not familiar with the natal chart, this is definitely going to be the best way to get an accurate read on where your placements are. And then you're also going to notice that in this system, we still use the whole sign system, the whole sign house system, which just basically means that the natal chart is divided into 12 equal parts, because these represent the different areas of life. And that this gives us a deeper insight into different placements in your chart and what area of life is going to be most impacted, or what area of life that energy is going to express itself in. And so I still use this, the whole sign system, as does like Athen and all other 13 sign astrologers, or that I know of. Because again, it just gives us that deeper layer. But because again, the sky and the constellations in this system is not equally divisible into 12, you're going to notice that these are all the signs along the outer edge here, parameter, are all not completely aligned with each house. And that's okay. So you're going to get mixed energies in multiple houses, or you might, just based on how long the constellations are. So the reason why these are all different sizes is because they're representative of how long the constellations are. Okay, so again, in tropical mainstream astrology, if you look at a whole sign chart, because again, there's different house systems in astrology too. That's where, I mean, there's so many different ways you can look at astrology. But I studied whole sign, which is again this house system. But if you look in tropical astrology, it's going to be evenly divided. Like Leo would cover your whole first house, Virgo would cover your whole second house, and so on. It's very even. Not the case with 13 sign astrology. It's much more blendable, and you may experience multiple energies in multiple planets or houses. And so, and that's why the zodiac seasons in 13 sign astrology are all different lengths as well. So, for example, Virgo season, this is Virgo. Virgo season spans just over or around a month and a half long, whereas Scorpio season, which you can see here is much smaller, only spans about 7 days long. And that's because that's how long the sun is in each constellation for. It corresponds to how big the constellations are. And so that's a major difference as well between 13 sign astrology and tropical astrology, is that 13 sign astrology acknowledges the actual size of the constellations. So again, it's a very nonlinear system, but to me, I'm just like, this makes so much sense because nature is nonlinear. It just makes so much sense to me. So you're going to see that. You're going to notice like an Ophiuchus here. So Scorpio and Ophiuchus share space in the sky. They have very similar energies. I'm going to get into Ophiuchus later on and what the energies stand for and everything. But Ophiuchus is commonly called the 13th sign, but it's actually the 9th sign because it sits in between Scorpio and Sagittarius in the sky. And therefore, Pisces is actually the 13th sign. So I just really wanted to break that down for y'all and give you guys, if you go to pull your chart and you're like, whoa, why are these all different sizes? What does that mean? It's because it's correlating to the size of the actual sizes of the constellations. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my chart here. So that was a mouthful, but again, I just really felt like I wanted to give you guys a really, really, really in-depth breakdown of 13 sign astrology. If you're on my email list, you already know because I've broken this down for you guys. But I'm going to be doing, sending out my emails and doing different zodiac updates. Well, not really updates, but just aligning. Part of this podcast is going to be aligning us to the shift in zodiac seasons according to 13 sign astrology. And so we're starting here, Journey In season 2. But again, I'm going to throw some other things in the mix too. And I'm just so excited that you guys are here. I'm so excited to be here again with my OG listeners, I'm sure, and hopefully some new ones. But again, if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Instagram. The best way to learn how to work with me is to join my email list. I always offer, again, giveaways, discounts on my services and whatnot, because I do readings and I also do astrological blueprints, which are basically write-ups of your big three in 13 sign astrology. But yeah, that's the best way to learn with me and really just stay up to date on these things. This has just been so much fun for me, but the podcast is now going to be a part of that as well. So thank you guys so much for being here. Don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions, and I can't wait to journey with you.